An instant hero! Can you believe this? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und Weiß ein Leben lang. Hallo Leute, willkommen zum einzigen Schalke-Podcast auf Englisch. Welcome to episode 156 of SchalkeMerica. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. Joining me, as always, Jack Mangan. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, not a victory Monday for the first time in quite a while. But that's okay. The streak had to come to an end at some point. I mean, it didn't, but it was likely. 5 on the bounce was quite enough for me. I think it's probably going to be the manner of the defeat that people are most disappointed with rather than the result. Because still in a good place with a couple games to go. So once again, still with our own destiny in our hands and a lot to take advantage of.
There is. Everything is still in our destiny. Losing 4-1 to Bremen is not the best way to do it. But if you were to lose, you'd rather lose them than against like Sandhausen, who we got next, by the way, who are pretty hot themselves. But it's interesting results this weekend. St. Pauli lost to Darmstadt. Nuremberg lost, officially ending their hopes of promotion. So, yeah, results are getting more clear now. We got 3 games left. Honestly, we win next 3 games, or maybe even a couple of results go away from the other games, could lock up the top 2 spot, which is the goal, right? Yeah, we don't want to be in the play. I mean, listen, we'll take whatever we can get. Obviously, we'd rather have the play-in game than be in 4th, but if at all possible, I think at least for our own personal health, we'd prefer not to have to sit through the playoff situation. So but once again, we're there right now. We can make it happen. This loss wasn't some sort of like definite setback in terms of the automatic promotion bid. No, because luckily we had 2-point advantage on Bremen. So now they're only 1 point up on us. St. Pauli lost, like we said, so Darmstadt leapfrogs them. We have, I think, a 2-point cushion, maybe 3-point cushion on Darmstadt. 2 points on Darmstadt right now. So, and 3 on St. Pauli's. So we're sitting in a good spot at the moment. But this game was the top spiel. Obviously, 1 versus 2, 2 versus 1, however you want to call it. A game that meant a lot in terms of redemption in a way, because the first time we played them, we did fairly well in that game. It looked like we had the win. They got a ghost penalty at the end of the game. Fulkrug sets up and scores the goal. They tie the game at the end of death. So we thought those massive drop points could end up costing us, even though, there's other results that could have cost us. So we wanted revenge. And it's a game with 2 big goal scorers on both teams, right? We obviously have Timon and Pumba, Terodde and Bulter. They have Fulkrug and Ducksch. Marvin Ducksch, for one person, he has been sitting on 18 goals for 17 goals for the longest time. He's like the postman. He's been hitting posts in every game he's played. Had 2 posts in this game. But let's get into lineups in this one, Jack. First for us, starting lineup changed just ever so slightly. Vinheim would be on the right instead of Matriciani, but we saw Tiao, Kaminski, Çalhanoğlu with Frazel in the back. Itakura, Paulsen in the middle, holding pivots with Drexler, Bulter, Salazar, and Terodde. Thoughts on the lineup?
Do we not have a picture of Vinheim in Schalke gear at this point?
No. He's to be determined.
I mean, the starting lineup was very much what we've seen again recently. Possibly a slightly different kind of like general starting shape. Because I felt like Bolter was consistently playing a bit higher and was less in that central role. So it may have been
4-2-2-2 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Some kind of but anyway, in terms of like personnel selection, pretty similar. I mean, it's nice to see Vinheim back in the lineup at a minimum. He had just kind of started getting going, and then, of course, out to injury, which has been the case for several players. Tiao and Kaminski, fine with that. And Itakura. I think the way this game went, it ultimately ended up being a Florian Flick game. And so I think the inclusion of Paulsen was unfortunate, particularly in the first half. But outside of that, obviously I'm for the most part, fine with what we saw.
Yeah, I agree with all that assessment there. And getting over to the visitors, Pavlenka had a decent game in goal. You had Jung, Ducksch, who we mentioned, Mitchell Weiser, Bittencourt, Fulkrug, Schmid, Rap Agu, Gruev, and Friedel. Strong lineup by them. Obviously, have the two big goal scorers. Mitchell Weiser has had a decent season. Bittencourt, something we're familiar with. Schmid has had a good season as well. And Agu and Gruev. So there's a lot of good players throughout this lineup here. Obviously, this is going to be a difficult game, Jack. We knew that. It wasn't going to be a game we're going to glance over and look at the week after, was it?
I mean, yeah, like in addition to, obviously the two guys up top that you mentioned already, I thought Gruev was really good in this one. Bittencourt was pretty solid as well. And then the guys, Ago and Weiser, not bad either on the wing. So, I mean, there's some good performances all over the pitch for Bremen, and definitely some known quantities there in terms of the personnel.
Yeah, and this game was interesting because, Bremen got the action started hot and heavy early. They had, within the first minute of the game, Fulkrug had an opportunity. He got past Freisel. Luckily, Thiaw puts some pressure on him. He hits the outside of the post on the shot, and that's a warning shot right there if you're Schalke. Fulkrug gets his chance within the first minute of the game, but Werder came to play, and we've seen them in the last, 5 games or so at least, many times this season, that they started off slow, usually give up the first goal and have to play their way back into the games, and they're very good at that. But this game, they were fully intent on trying to get the lead early, and it looked like it from the onset.
Yeah, it did. I think they just set up very well against us when they were without the ball. I think they were just the far more organized team. I think that Buskins was maybe outcoached in this one in a way that showed more significantly than has maybe been the case over the past 5 games, because not all of those 5 games were like brilliant performances where we clearly outclassed the opponent. There's a couple good performances in there, and then a couple average ones that we somehow got the win with. I thought this one was maybe a kind of a clear difference in terms of Bremen really coming in with a plan. What is it, like a 3-1-4-2 maybe that they play, kind of something like that. That just that maybe wouldn't have worked slightly as well when we were kind of playing like our back 5 shape. But when we're playing 4-2-3-1 or even like the 4-2-2-2 potentially that it was today, both of their strikers are putting direct pressure on our center backs. They have the 2 central midfield players that can mark our 2 central defensive midfield players, and then they also have the 2 wide midfielders in that 4 that can push out to close down any ball that gets circulated out to the right or the left back. And so I felt for a lot of the first half in particular, they were very excellent in executing that, and just wherever we went, there was sort of immediate pressure on the ball, and they were doing a good job of just kind of sitting in passing lanes and just kind of directly marking our options as well. And they made it really difficult for us to build, and we didn't seem to have much of an answer for that.
Yeah, I think a good word for them is efficient, right? Because for a good spell of the first half and really the game, I guess, we had decent possession, did a lot of good things, but mistakes, especially in the final third, either not capitalizing on our chances or just getting silly mistakes, and they pounced on it immediately. And obviously they get the goal early with Gruev, gets the first goal right away. Big mistake by Freisel. Should have done, if he shouldn't have caught it, should have at least palmed away to the side, not back into the middle where Gruev wonderfully put it back. So not the ideal start for us. Great start for them. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, let's see how we react. But the goal, an error should have been prevented, right?
And what do you think happened there, really? I don't want to make really bad excuses. I don't know if it was like, the sunshine that can sometimes peek through parts of the Veltins arena, making it difficult or whatever. But like, it didn't seem to be the kind of shot that he would have needed to palm away.
No, so one of the angles, it looked like the ball had major swerve on it, and when you watch his reaction, he's going like this way, then palms this way. So it looked like maybe the ball swerved on him and he misjudged.
Yeah, because he was jumping to his right, but then he had to go to his left with his hands. Gotcha.
Yeah, so like a knuckleball type, but was really fast. That was hit at him. Well struck by, I forget who. I don't know if it was Schmid or who struck it. But really well done. Mitchell Weiser might have been the guy who did it, but to go down off an error, you hate to see. We talked about this for how long now? How many years now? We've talked about this, that when we give up goals, we want it to be well executed, cut through our team, and we're okay with that. when it's a mistake by us, we're like, come on, we could have prevented this. And this is a prime example of that. So down 1-0, not the end of the world at that point. We were playing decent, but killing ourselves with our mistakes, and the goal was one of them right there. We had a couple of chances. Simon Terodde had a couple of chances, our best goal scorer by far. He had I think Çalhanoğlu had a nice cross to him. He's offside of the play, but he should have put that away. Another play where Itakura in the 21st minute or so set him up beautifully, really kind of cut through that middle midfield, found Terodde over the bar. And I felt like that was going to come back to bite us. Thoughts on the missed opportunities, in particular by Terodde?
Yeah, it was an interesting game because I actually think we were decent.
Yeah,
in terms of chance creation, we
probably had the more opportunities.
Yeah, we had a decent number of chances in the first half and throughout the game that we could have, maybe played a final ball that was better, or somebody couldn't have like squandered a first touch or something. And also just some nice saves that were made. It was just that, on the defensive end that we were particularly shambolic, and that's what caused, the massive discrepancy in the scoreline. Terodde I thought was wasteful in this one, unfortunately. Not as clinical as he typically is. Got into some decent positions, and I also think, though, that offensively, particularly in the first half, and actually for most of the second half as well, until we had like Aydin and Flick and Idrizi on the pitch, until we had Cherlanov, until we had those guys on the pitch, I thought we were pretty one-dimensional offensively. And everything that we had was either kind of coming in transition, or it was aerial balls to Terodde in the center of the box. And that was like the entirety of our offensive chance creation. So that was a problem as well. I mean, it technically kind of worked at times because, like I said, like Terodde had chances and was wasteful and should have done better. But a little bit one-dimensional. And maybe some of that in the second half was when them backing off with pressure or whatever. But missing some creativity, I felt like, in this one.
Yeah, and those times where they went for those plays and they missed, Bremen countered quickly, and they're very good at that transition game. The two strikers plus all the midfielders and the rest of their team, they're very good at finding each other, switching the play around. And then in the, I guess it's like 29th minute, Fulkrug got his goal. Nice goal by him. 2-0 at that point, and I'm like, shit, here we go. Not what I wanted to see at that point. When it's 1-0, okay, if we can get a draw in this game, that's not the end of the world. We're still 1 point up, or 2 points up on them, and a draw would do us really nicely. But then they go 2 up. I'm like, okay, there's no way we're coming back from 2-0. If we get a goal back, at least we'll make it interesting. But going into the break, 2 down, 2-0 with those 2 goals. I mean, what'd you see from that second goal? And exactly.
It looked so similar to the first one in terms of like, wasn't like both dead ball situations, and they kind of ran a similar kind of like short routine to like the top of the box before launching something in. So, I mean, I don't know if those were set routines that they created just for this game, but like, if not, that looked like we did not do our homework in terms of set pieces and dead ball situations against them. Because I mean, like, I'd have to go back and analyze it a little bit further. But like I said, it looked like both of those goals came off of almost identical movements from Bremen, and that's the kind of stuff you'd see from us when we were getting relegated. It's like they would have like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 dangerous chances from like the exact same way that they wouldn't score, and we would do nothing to adjust, and then eventually they would, they would score that way. And we let up the first goal, and then we let up a second goal through a very similar mechanism, unfortunately.
Yeah. Both goals were scored off of short plays off the corners. There were slight variances in it, but it was exactly the same short corner. And Fulkrug, as we joke all the time, like, how do you leave Simon Terodde that wide open all the time when he's obviously the goal scorer? Fulkrug is the main guy for them, and he was wide open for that. His closest guy was his guy, covering him, and he let the ball go to him, and Fulkrug put it away. So 2-0 there at half. And I'm thinking, okay, this is like how we've seen this before, where hopefully Buyo or somebody, maybe even Schroeder, lays into the team at halftime, and they come out with a little bit of kick to them. Second half started. It was much the same as the first half. Up to this point, I think Marvin Ducksch has had 2 posts in this game. I think one in the first half, one in the second half. You knew he was coming, and sure enough, he gets a goal in the 51st. 2 minutes later, he gets a goal again. 2 goals within a 2-minute span there. I mean, he's good. They're good. But I think all these goals could have been prevented. I think there were silly mistakes by us, lapses in judgment, careless giveaways that kind of led to all these goals. But what in particular did you see from those last 2 goals that they scored?
Yeah, I have to rewatch the second Ducksch goal because I actually forget how that one went.
It was a nice blast.
Like,
it kind of like bounced out to him, and he just took it himself.
But the Füllkrug one, I mean, was I think he was actually Bolter that was marking him, and then Füllkrug dove deep into the box, and Bolter just didn't move with him at all and just stood there, and then he was unmarked. And then the first one from our was I think technically it should have been maybe like Vindheim on the back end, and he ended up kind of like jumping up and kind of cutting centrally, and no one picked him up, and I don't know, not good. Leaving people unmarked in the box is generally not a good strategy, particularly when it's the kind of guys we're talking about here. So you're kind of asking for it when you have multiple goals like that, where the person just no one has a body on them, and they're allowed to get that kind of space in a dangerous area.
Yeah, and as Anthony mentions in the chat, once you go down 2+ goals, it just deflates the team. And James Thorogood, friend of the show, he was doing the telecast in the game, and he mentioned like, hey, when it was 1-0, if Bremen scores another goal, they're gonna knock this crowd out of the game. Now, to our credit, the crowd stayed lively throughout the game, and they deserve all the credit. But they scored that second goal. It looks like some of the wind was kicked out of us, and then they come out in the second half and immediately score again. Game was over. It was already over at that point, but it just completely deflated the team. They kept trying. We kept trying, which is good. And Toyota ended up getting a consolation goal at the end, all for naught. But missed opportunities, I think. It's the score will tell you that they destroyed us. They owned the game and everything. But statistics, I mean, we had more shots. Like you mentioned, we had a lot of good opportunities in the first half. Possession was in our favor. That could be because we were losing the game, trying to come back. But we just missed our opportunities, I think, Jack. I mean, I don't know what your thought, but I thought this game was a lot closer than the 4-1 indicated, and we just are going to rue the missed chances, and hopefully we learn against Sandhausen.
Yeah, I mean, not suggesting we played great. We played terrible defensively, and offensively we weren't, stellar, but it wasn't as if we struggled to get numbers in the box, but we got the ball into the box, particularly to Torada, like I said, in a number of dangerous situations, and we just couldn't find a way to get it in. So later in the game, like I said, we brought on Florian Flick, who I thought was needed in this game when there was this much pressure on the ball. Once again, you need people with composure that can help circulate things. I don't know if Bushkin should have seen that one ahead of time, but this one to me was very much a Flick game, and he should have been starting from the beginning. And then I thought Aydin was decent. I thought Idrizi was lively, as he typically is, was combining well with Chananoglu and Bolter getting wide at the end of the game. So and like I said, some of that was Bremen backing off. We started to get a little bit more creativity and diversity in terms of how we were creating chances and where they were coming from in like the later parts of the second half. But at that point, I mean, the game was already gone, as you said, 4-0. And that fourth goal for them, it's tough for Frasel because it's a deflection and it kind of catches him going the wrong way.
Big deflection,
But the problem is, even without that, he made multiple mistakes in this game, and was pretty terrible. It's unfortunate because he actually had just had fairly recently, I think, probably one of his better performances of the season. And so we had just finally given him some credit after not really giving him credit for a while. And then he comes in like this, and it's just, it's tough. It's not what you needed right now.
It all went to his head. No,
I mean, like the defense in and of itself was poor, but on top of that, you at least need a good goalkeeping performance to try to rescue some things sometimes. And it was the entire back area, center backs, fullbacks, goalkeeper. It was everybody that was involved in it this time, unfortunately.
And I think we talked about it last week, how Kaminsky's been really great, but maybe he's not the right guy for a team like Bremen. Maybe you need to have someone else. I mean, obviously maybe Sane wasn't available or fully healthy, and that's the best that you got. But again, as you said, maybe Buyo got outmanaged in this game for the first time in his tenure, and so Bremen found some weaknesses in our team, and they did very well with the chances that they got against us, and they were efficient. I mean, look, 7 shots on targets, 4 goals. It's pretty damn efficient. So good to see William in the house and Edwin as well.
It was just one of those, and the second half was better. Like I said, it was one of those performances though that I don't think we've seen that often since the beginning part of the season, where we just looked like we were completely outclassed. Like I think there was a couple moments early in the year where we went up against the team and we just like, they're significantly better organized. They look on some level like more professional or whatever, or cohesive in some way than we do. And it, within 5 minutes, you're like, it's going to be a long day at the office because of that. And then for most of the season, that hasn't been the case. Like we've been in every game or better than a lot of the teams. And this was just one of those performances where I think, like you said, you're watching the first 10 minutes of this one and you're like, oh man, they're sharper, they're more organized, they have a plan here. And this is going to be a tough one for us. And then unfortunately, on top of that, you have a lot of the individual errors that just kind of compounded the situation.
I would not be surprised when we were down 4-0 that some people might have thought that crept into their mind that, hey, we were top of the table, but maybe we're not as good as we thought we were, right? Bremen's a team who's beaten us significantly, and they're our closest rivals right now. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think the main thing is Bremen came with a plan, like you said, and we came out flat. Flat in the sense that we had all these pointless errors, these errors that cost us the game. I think, like you said, we had good chances, created a lot of shots, just nothing was on target, or we had bad giveaways that led to great turnovers or great counterattacks by Bremen. So good teams will do this to you. We've said this before, where defensively, yes, we're doing really well, giving up 1 or 0 goals a game, but defensively, these other teams, maybe not as good as Bremen, that have the chances, but they miss them because they're not as good. You get a good team against us that will capitalize, and Bremen did that exactly against us. So, it's a wake-up call, but it's not the end of the world. Like I said, there were some other results that went our way. Williams says, we beat Sandhausen, Nuremberg, and St. Pauli loses. We beat Sandhausen, Nuremberg beat St. Pauli. Top 3 is guaranteed. Yeah, that's true. But I want that top 2 guaranteed. That's what I want right now. Do not want to, risk that. But Sandhausen beat Nuremberg 4-2. That was a shocking result. Darmstadt beating St. Pauli. That's a wake-up call for them. We got these teams coming up here. I mean, a lot. Nuremberg end the season. Sandhausen's next, and St. Pauli, who just lost, is in the middle there. A lot to play for here. Standings are Werder in first, 57. We got 56. Darmstadt 54. St. Pauli 53, and I guess Hamburg's still in the mix at 51. So 3 games to play. Anything can happen, Jack.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a silver lining to this one, just one positive to take away is that you had Vinheim back in the starting lineup, and you still have Terada and Bolter healthy up there, and then on the bench you had Sane was available, Latza was available, Aiden was available. So you had some guys that have been out or struggling that were either in the lineup or were available on the bench. And that is one positive at least. So, a more full complement potentially. Still missing Oweyan, obviously. That's probably like the big glaring.
Do we know what his situation is? I keep meaning to look it up and I keep forgetting. I don't know how, because I don't see him every week.
Yeah, it was the other game. He like re-injured kind of, or like in training or something. Yeah, I think that it was a calf injury, maybe. I forget. But I didn't get the sense that he was going to be shut down for the rest of the season. But yeah, probably a couple games. So maybe he's back this week. Maybe he's not. I'll have to check on the status of that.
So here's the starting lineup. What would you change for Sandhausen? Granted, Sandhausen is not St. Pauli, but Sandhausen are in a bit of a good streak at the moment. Would you change anything? Would you keep it the same? What would you do?
I mean, if we're assuming the same, let's just say like the 4-2-3-1. If we're assuming that, you know me, I kind of have like an Aiden bias. Yeah. So I would consider giving him the start. That's just a position that like no one's really ever locked down this season, because it'll be like a couple really good performances and then somebody gets hurt or they rotate somebody else in. If you said Vinheim again, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I thought he had a kind of a bad game in this one, but very small sample size overall from him, so we don't really know what to kind of expect. He's had like a really good performance and not so great one as part of like a whole bad team performance. Kaminsky and Tiao, I'm fine leaving back there. Itakura, I still kind of like for the most part in that central midfield pairing. Against Sandhausen, I'd probably be, more fine with Paulson in there. But I wonder, like you said, like they've been on a good streak recently. They're unbeaten in the last 4, I think. Yes. I haven't been watching them, so I don't know. But like, do you think it's the kind of game where we would benefit from having Flick, and his passing, or do you think we benefit from just sort of the extra defensive cover?
I do think we would benefit from having Flick's passing in this game, and I think if he does really well confidence-wise, you slot him in for St. Pauli, because that might be a good insertion there as well. And so give him a couple games there. Two important games there. And then, depending on what the schedule says in terms of the placement and are we locked in the top two, whoever you can start, whoever bring the youngsters if we're locked. But these next two games are going to be important. So I think, I would swap out Paulson for Flick for sure. And then honestly, I'm fine with the top four, honestly.
Would you play a Drizzy as like a winger, like in place of like Drexler potentially?
I would like to see that. I mean, Sandhausen might be the place to try it, honestly. You give him if you give him 45 and if he doesn't do great, or if he does poorly, you bring in Drexler right away. Or if if he's having a solid shift, give him 60 to 75 minutes and then bring in Drexler or something like that. Maybe you can turn Lynn off, give Drexler a rest before a big St. Pauli matchup. So
yeah, but the St. Pauli thing, I think one of the things I mentioned like last week, I think is just I felt like we were just out physical in that one significantly, and so like that's one where I almost kind of want Paulson in the game more.
Yes.
For the presence he can bring. Maybe that's a game where you change shape or you change personnel and you have like Itakura, Paulson, and Flick in the game at the same time. And just kind of beef it up a little bit potentially. I don't know. So something to keep an eye on in the next couple of weeks.
And honestly, you talk about the physicality of St. Pauli. Maybe this is a game you could. I don't know if you want to flirt with it with as good as Sandhausen is at the moment, but I would say if two of the hardest working guys. I mean, if you include Paulson, three guys, it's Salazar, Drexler, and Paulson. If you can give them a breather or give them less minutes in this game against Sandhausen and bring in some other guys like Flick and Idrizi and maybe Aden or something like that, that way they're more fresh. Or Churlinov again, yeah. And then that way the three of them are fresh for the beating that we're going to have. That's going to be the pivotal game there against St. Pauli. And our defense, we got to figure something out defensively too. I think Paulson to help out the back four with Bergstaller and company is important because Bergie is very tricky. He likes to get in those spots as we know he runs those channels very well. So yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to see like what kind of rotation you can pull off just because like I do feel like we're at the point of the season where if you're rotating, it mostly needs to be because you think it's the correct personnel decision for that game as opposed to like, I want to make sure these guys are fresh. So we're going to take Sandhausen for advantage slightly or whatever, particularly on the run they're on. So I don't know. I feel like we need to, do whatever that makes the most sense. Most people are healthy right now and just roll the dice and hope everyone stays fresh for the most part. And, it's not like we're playing cup games or, European competitions. Like it's the end of the season. We should be in like, maybe worn down, but also like in the best fitness overall in terms of stamina and stuff. Cause you're like at the end of your season form or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah.
We should go with our best 11. And then, if we got a lead going into the 60th minute and you start swapping guys out, give them some rest here, but yeah, it's a tough game because Sandhausen have been pulling off victories lately against, Nuremberg has been really good of late. So we have to watch that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And Edwin has a good question here. He says, do we have the toughest schedule to finish out of the top 5 teams? So let's take a look. Let me see if I'm not going to share a screen, but okay. So Werder Bremen, looking who they got coming up. Where is the schedule? Okay. So they have Holstein Kiel, Au, and Jan Regensburg. Not that bad. Oh, just lost where I was going. Way to go. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's a pretty favorable one.
Yeah.
And
my standings aren't working now. Come on now. Wake up. There it is. All right. Try this again. Darmstadt. So Darmstadt they have Dusseldorf, Au, and Paderborn. Again, not that bad. Looking at St. Pauli. St. Pauli has Nuremberg next, us, and Dusseldorf. It's tough. Tougher than us. St. Pauli and Dusseldorf. So Dusseldorf is basically where Sandhausen is, so it's equal to us.
Yeah, I mean, so I think what you're saying is like Bremen's getting promoted, and then like the winner of St. Pauli and Schalke is getting promoted. Based on what you're looking at. But
Yep.
That's why games aren't played on paper, Richard.
And for any of those Hamburg lovers out there, away from this podcast, they got Ingolstadt, who have been relegated, Hannover, and Hansa, which is pretty easy. So there's an outside chance that they could get in there in third spot, maybe, but it's going to come down to St. Pauli and Schalke, I think, for the automatic promotion spots. And then the third spot can come down between Darmstadt and the two of us, I should say. So. Yeah, it's getting tight. The next game will tell us a lot if we can. It's going to tell us a lot. We're going to have some breathing rooms. Really, does Nuremberg do us a favor and beat St. Pauli? And do we beat Sandhausen? That would give us some breathing room at the top too. But Darmstadt's still playing as well, and I don't know, man, a lot. Can't be easy now. Can't rest. It's never easy for us.
Gotta keep going.
Keep going.
Just a few, and like I said before, it's been fun this year.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what happens, I do appreciate, the effort we've seen from the team and the things that like Schroeder's done and sort of, the atmosphere. It's been fun to support Schalke again this season. That's been the first time in a couple of years we've been able to say that. So,
yeah. I'm going to get to this next comment I'm going to do a video first before I go to the next comment. So this was Rovin Schroeder talking about Mike Buskins in terms of head coach for next season. All right, let me play this here.
Also erstmal sind wir froh, dass der Bujo da ist. Das ist das Allerwichtigste. Mit seinem Team nicht nur harmoniert, sondern einfach auch für Schalke eine tolle Arbeit macht. So, und wie wieder auch die letzten Wochen ist das Spiel Bremen, was uns beschäftigt und der Fokus drauf ist. Da können alle sagen, ja, das erzählen sie nur, aber es ist halt so, weil es einfach für uns eine klare Struktur auch gibt, nicht zu weit zu denken und jetzt schon irgendwie in irgendwelche Euphorie aufzubrechen. Tut nicht gut, weil du dann völlig den Blick auch verlierst, wegen des Werder Bremen. Wir wissen, was wir an Bujo haben. Man braucht jetzt nicht noch weiter loben, weil Bujo auch weiß, was ich persönlich auch von ihm halte. Und da gibt es von Anfang an eine klare Absprache, egal wie das ausgeht. Und von daher sind wir einfach froh, dass Bujo in der Gemeinde FC Schalke 04 ist, uns zur Verfügung steht mit allem, was er hat. Und das ist der größte Faustpfand für uns. Und von daher ist es klar, dass es im Sommer natürlich mit Mike Buskins weitergeht, aber nicht als Cheftrainer.
So what he ended there saying is basically the short runaround is that Buskins will not be our manager next season. And they've been actively looking for another manager. We kind of knew this already, but we were just waiting for the official confirmation there. I'd imagine that part of it is I imagine Buskin probably doesn't want it, I guess. I think maybe this Bremen game shows that maybe, I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm glad he's staying at Schalke, but, as much as we all want him to, we all love him and everything, maybe he's not the coach for us. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Do you think he doesn't want it though? I mean, like maybe I'm just unaware of many statements that he's made, so I apologize if this is like
I don't know either.
Things he said it kind of strikes me as someone who probably would. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's the right decision though. Of course, and the 5-game winning run, as important as that was, and as fantastic of a new manager bump that we know that you love as that was, I don't think anybody is going to look at those 5 games and be like, for the most part, yeah, tactical masterclass, right, by Buskins or whatever. Right. And this Bremen game doesn't change my opinion of Buskins as a manager like at all.
No.
My opinion of him after this Bremen game is exactly the same as it was after the 5-game winning streak. Yeah, I mean, as long as he doesn't start doing things that I think are just glaringly awful, like this is what we're rolling with for the rest of the season.
Christian
it makes complete sense. Like he was always going to be a caretaker manager.
Yeah.
This isn't like you go out and you appoint like Gramatsis and then end up keeping him. This is like an internal guy who's been part of the staff and is going to revert. It's like a Duncan Ferguson at Everton or something like that. Yeah. As kind of an example. Schroeder has done a great job with most of the personnel decisions he's made. I believe in him if we have the resources that he'll be able to go out and recruit somebody to Schalke if we're promoted. I think that can sell itself. And if we have reasonable finances, like I said, and it seems like we're making progress in that regard and we can afford a decent coach. And then if we are promoted, I think what Schroeder will have already done will be enough of a selling point in terms of like, we have a new structure here. We're headed in the right direction. This is a project that you actually want to be a part of as opposed to, the poison chalice that it had been, for many of the previous seasons.
Yeah, and I kind of look at Buskins like a Hoop Stevens, where he's a caretaker. He loves the team so much, but maybe he doesn't want the role. I don't know. Maybe Mike. I mean, I'd imagine Buskins really does want the role, but I don't know. It's tough. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the decision. Honestly, I think what he's done, he's always going to be great for all of us. We all love him, no matter if he stayed with us as a head coach or stays on it with another role like he did before. So, it's a tough one there, but I have confidence like you in Rovin Schroeder. He's done everything pretty great so far for us in all respects. And so you hope that he's going to bring in someone who's going to fit the bill and give us exactly what we need with the team that he's built. And it kind of leads us to the question that was in the chat was, if Schalke get promoted back to the Bundesliga, what upgrades do you think the coach needs? What do you need to be made in order to stay in the Bundesliga? Schroeder's done a good job. A lot of these are loan jobs, and so which of them can he make permanent? Right, Salazar's already been permanent. Oyan says he would stay if he get promoted. Toronto is definitely staying. Bulter, I don't know what's going on with him. So if we can shore up some of these loan spots, Itakura is going to be the interesting one, right? Can we get him from Man City? Can we get another loan? I don't know. But what moves do you think we definitely have to make? Goalkeeper has to be at the top of the list because you think,
that's what I was going to say. Gone. Absolutely. And so just for the sake of this conversation, to make it easier, I'll say, like, what do we need to upgrade, assuming the entire squad stays? Like, assuming we have the ability to retain everybody, that'll just make it easier conversation. But yeah, first and foremost on my list is absolutely goalkeeper. That's number one for me. As much as we love Fairman, I don't think there'd be many people that would say, hey, I'm confident with Ralph Fairman as our starting goalkeeper back in the Bundesliga again. I don't know how much longer he stays at the club, and if he does, I can't imagine it's going to be in a starting role once again, maybe a cup game here or there. And yeah, I'm sorry, Frazel this entire season has not impressed me. He hadn't really impressed me when the switch was made from Fairman. Remember, we were talking about that back then, saying like, okay, fine, but like it didn't feel like it was justified or like necessary. Yep. And I don't think he's done anything subsequently for the most part to really say like, yes, that was clearly, a great move or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, goalkeeper's big for me. Outside of that, I think you probably need another striker. I don't know if you can rely on Tirada being healthy necessarily. And let's say like you have an issue with like Bolter or Tirada, right? It's Pieringer. Like, do you trust Pieringer to kind of pick up the weight in the Bundesliga? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I'd say you probably need like another attacker there. And then left-hand side, you might be fine with Oyan and Çalhanoğlu. You need to figure out the right back situation. So, I mean, like, you have Aydin, bring somebody else in there that can be permanent and be like a difference maker. Like, it'd be nice if you had like, a counterpart to Oyan, and then like you have like Çalhanoğlu and Aydin as like the young sort of like backups that you can rotate in. Yeah. But it'd be nice if you could go out in the market and, really get like a competent right back like permanently. So,
yeah, the verdict is still out on Vinheim. If he's, is that going to work for him? Is he more of a wing back type of player anyway? That's a lot of questions there, but definitely goalkeeper. It would be nice if we
creative midfielder.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know where you're going to find it, but I talk about Manu from Darmstadt. I wouldn't mind picking someone like him up, or Tietz as a backup for Toronto. Tietz is going to want to start, and you probably get him starting over Bolter. But I'd love to see what Toronto could do possibly in the Bundesliga. But you're right, he's going to be 35 or something like that. There are some guys, there are some exceptions to the rule, but yeah, you're going to have the backup just in case he goes down, or Bolter, or whatever. So, but yeah, Eric is saying maybe pair Itakura and Kabak in defense, assuming we keep Itakura. If we do, I also like Itakura playing the defensive midfielder role. He's pretty good at that. He creates a lot of opportunities that way. But I imagine Thiago is going to get sold. A lot of people are thinking, imagine that he was already flirting with Milan and a couple other teams in the winter break. And if Schalke get promoted, who knows? Maybe his heartstrings will keep him at Schalke. But if the right price comes, I'm sure Schalke with their debt will sell him. So.
Yeah, it'd be sad. He's a great talent, and I'd like to see what he could do back in the Bundesliga. But my default is always going to be sell these people before we lose them on free transfers, given our track record. So, and hopefully we're done with those days. But listen, if we can get Malik Chow out the door for 15, 20 million, who knows what he's going to be worth. But like, yeah, I mean, you'll probably end up doing that. But yeah, it would be unfortunate if we're not able to retain Itakura. And we sell we were in trouble quickly then, and we need to actually go out and do some legitimate business in the transfer market. So, you like the personnel we have, but given the short-term commitments and other things, potentially it's a precarious situation.
I mean, we just bring back Timo Becker, because Timo Becker is really good. He was good in the Bundesliga. It's the Zweite Liga he sucks at, apparently. So yeah, you got that. And Eric says, chiming in about Buyo, he says, I think it's a lot of rhetoric for play for the shirt, passion, not really a huge tactical shift from Dimitri Gramotzis. And I agree with that. It hasn't been drastically different from Gramotzis other than the formation. I think the team has been playing a lot more for passion in the shirt, which is big, because I don't think we really were doing it at times this season under Gramotzis. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation there. We'll see what happens. I think whatever Schroeder does, needs to lock up that manager as soon as the season ends. Give him a full off season to work with his team, because the last thing we want is they come in like 2 weeks before the season thinking, all right, good luck in the Bundesliga, or
Yeah, I mean, but they've been looking at that since they got rid of Grammazis. They have.
Yes.
So I don't believe that they were serious. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't believe they've been seriously considering Buskins in any capacity. I think they made the decision that, like, hey, Grammazis isn't it, and we need to make a change now for like the success of the team this season. But it also can't be another coach that we have to bring in who may or may not work and probably wouldn't be a great fit that we're paying a salary for and on the hook for. Why don't we just give it somebody that we're already paying a salary to, Buskins, caretaker to the end of the season? We think he can do the job. And then we have, half of the Rookrunde or whatever to actually have a proper coaching search in advance of the summer. And I think that's what's going on. And I think that's smart and gives us, plenty of time to look into it. It just may be a little bit difficult to attract a coach with our division uncertain, whereas if we had been in the Bundesliga and we're like mid-table or something at this point in the season, be like, all right, well, we're going to be in the Bundesliga again. You know what you're getting into. At this point, people are probably still, looking at it and being like, well, where am I going to be?
There's rumors that there's a manager for, I think it's a Polish team who's winning the league this year, is rumored to be with Schalke. He's been in the Bundesliga and Zweite Liga before as a manager, so that's a rumor. But I forget his name. His name escapes me. And there's other candidates as well. So we'll see. I imagine they knew the decision for Buskins 4 or 5 weeks ago, but seeing how the team was performing, they're like, let's hold off on any kind of announcement and see how this rides out. If we go on a huge win streak, you announce it at the end. Or when they lost and announce it then. So
I hate whoever even asked that question at the press conference to bring that up.
Yeah.
Like, not to rag on journalists, not to rag on journalists for doing their job, but like who actually is like, what question I have? My question is Buskins going to be the manager next season? Like, I can't imagine anybody like really thinking that's probably going to be the case, like realistically, or that's what we need to be like focused on.
Yeah.
Right now. I don't know. I just, my thing, but
whatever. And granted, that was announced before the Bremen match, but still, not the point. I mean, like, who brings that up? Anyway,
I guess it makes more sense if it was pre-Bremen in the context of a 5, winning streak or whatever. But still, it's like, all right,
yeah. All right, that's all I got for news and stuff. Anything you got? Anything else for wrap this up?
No, let's stay positive. Like I said, we still control our own destiny. We had just won 5 games in a row, which no one expected. Bremen is top of the league right now. It's okay to drop a game to them. It was a bad performance. We definitely need Frazel to, it doesn't need to be fantastic. He just needs to not make mistakes. He can be completely average. I think our defense for the most part is usually good enough to provide enough cover. He just can't have the performance he had again. And I think we'll mostly be fine because offensively, it was a, uncharacteristically wasteful game from Tirada, but some of the chance creation was still there. We have a lot of the squad healthy. There's no reason that we can't get the results we need to get over the next 3 weeks.
I agree 100%. I think the ideal scenario for me is we lock up the top 2 positions before the Nuremberg match, and you let Ralph Fährmann play that last game with no worries that you're going to not get you're locked up in 1 or 2. If it's a 3rd place game, I don't want to deal with that, but that's just my world there. So anyway, all right. Any shout outs to the chat? You guys brought it again. Loved all the comments and questions there. Thank you again. But Jack, any shout outs for us? No pressure.
No, I'm gonna pass.
All right, cool. All right, where can our followers find you on social media?
I was thinking about one for a minute, and it's just gonna take too long, so don't worry about it. You can find me at JMMangan, JMMangan on Twitter.
I'm curious now, but all right. As always, you can follow me at R_KHARMAN. Follow the podcast if you're not doing it already. You're listening to us. So how do you not follow us? At SchalkeMerica. Any comments or questions? Anything you'd like to see us to talk about, make videos on? Let us know. We'll do it on our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done that already. Our podcast can be found anywhere podcasts can be heard. And support the show. Go to teespring.com/SchalkeMerica. Just saying. That's not the gear I'm wearing here, but All right. For Jack, I'm Richard. Until the next podcast comes, or watch along, probably podcast. We'll catch you soon. Look out.